Okay, AP Statistics, we are going to look at example 1 for Unit 6, and this is about IQ being normally distributed with these parameters, so a mean of 100 and a standard deviation of 16. And we are going to use the empirical rule to answer the question. So before I start, I just want to draw a picture of all my percentages so that I can use it to refer to during my problem. So I am just going to fill this in. The mean is 100. One standard deviation to the right is 116. 2 standard deviations to the right is 132. 3 standard deviations to the right is 148. On the left, 1 standard deviation to the left would be 84 because I'm just subtracting 16 this time. And then 2 standard deviations, 68. I'm just subtracting 16 again. And then 52 to subtract 16 again. And then, of course, I'm just going to break this down into my percentages just to make this a little bit easier to answer my questions. So I'm just writing down my empirical rule for this particular situation. That's what I'm doing here. And then I'm going to break it down into all of the smaller percentages. This will make my life so much easier here in a moment. Okay, almost done. Bear with me. And then, of course, these little tiny bits at the end here, 0.15%. Okay, so that will help me answer my questions. Okay, so in part A, what proportion of scores fall above 168? So to communicate as effectively as possible, we are going to draw a little mini picture here. I'm going to put my center in, and then 68 is to the left, and it's 2 standard deviations. So I'm going to make 2 marks to the left, put a line at 68, and then I want the proportion of scores that fall above, so I'm going to shade to the right. And then I'm going to write an inequality, the probability of X being greater than 68. And then, of course, I'm going to refer to my picture up here to see which values that indicates. So that's going to be all of this right here. So I am just going to essentially excuse me, subtract that 2.5, that would be these 2 values. I'm going to subtract that from the total to give me 97.5%. Very good. Okay, now I'm going to do part B. And that is what proportion of scores fall below 116. So again, I'm going to draw a picture. It's 100, 116 is to the right of that. I'm going to draw a line. The scores that fall below it would be shading to the left. So the proportion or probability of X being less than 116. All right, so I am going to look at my picture here. Less than 116 would be all of this. Okay, and so that means that area to the right is equal to 16. So the area below that would be 84%. And keep in mind, always think about context here. For part A, that 97.5%, that means that approximately 97.5% of people would have an IQ of above 68. For part B, approximately 84% of people would have an IQ below 116. Okay, so the next problem. Again, I'm going to draw a picture. I'm going to put my center. 84 is to the left, 116 is to the right, and these are both 1 standard deviation to the left and right, so this one should be pretty easy. We're going to draw our inequality now. X is between these, and that's going to be 68%. Okay, for part D, what proportion of scores are going to fall between 116 and 132? So 116, 132, shade right here. Draw your inequality. Okay, and then I'm just going to look up here between 116 and 132, and that'd be 13.5. And then, of course, part E, what proportion of scores fall above 148? 116, 132, 148, almost ran out of room. So that's going to be that shading. So greater than 148. And of course, that's that tiny little bit right here. So that's that 0.15%. Excellent.